right, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us here at the Training, Learning, and Development Community. This is our event, Ideal 22, the Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Accessibility for Learning Conference. This is our second year doing this one. Yeah, thanks for joining us. Let's see, I can see Heidi is in, Bela commenting. Yeah, I've got you in the chat, and yeah, lots of people are joining in now. Excellent. Welcome, everybody. Just a little bit of housekeeping. We're just going to start off. Sorry, I'm a little bit late. I had some technical difficulties coming in, which is kind of, a Monday for you, a Monday after Thanksgiving.
For sure.
So getting back into the swing of things. I wanted to thank the volunteer team that helped put this one together, because there's some folks that really put some work in. Bela is somebody that was giving us feedback, of course, as part of the group that helped put this one together. Bridget Manley, so much work. Devin Torres, Gwen Navarrete Clapperich, Kayleen Holt, of course, from Scissors at Tail Creative Services, Lala Del Alforti, Lisa Spurko, who's a speaker this week as well, Michelle Mazzeo, and Rubina Halwani. Thank you so much for helping out with the group and helping put this event together. I do this for like most of the events, where I love to get the support and sort of just a team together to kind of run ideas across one another, find speakers, and just be able to produce something that is more community focused versus just an individual just picking people out. So yeah, thank you for that. And also thanks to Kayleen and Scissortail Creative for sponsoring this event. Those little sponsorships that we get definitely help just keep the lights on here in this sort of 10 by 20 room that I'm in right now, and just keep the community going. I wanted to also just mention IDEAL is a great acronym for this event. It stands for Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Accessibility. It's an acronym that Kayleen came up with last year. She said, "I have the perfect acronym for this new event." And I think Bela is going to be talking more about some of these acronyms, I'm sure. But over the holidays, I had the privilege of getting involved in a few Thanksgiving conversations about DEI and just learning the perspectives of other folks that aren't necessarily even in this field, and whether or not it's their responsibility to even understand or know this stuff or be a part of it. And I'd never considered that before. And I'm so grateful that we're able to put these types of things together, where the folks that do really want to learn more and support the ideas that we're building and sharing here, that we can just continue to develop on this, because I do think it's everyone's responsibility. And for me, when I think about diversity, I think about beauty. I just love it when I see different cultures, different types of people getting together and sharing knowledge and finding ways to help support each other. That's why I am into building community. So, and with that, I'm just going to go ahead and let Bela Gaytan take over, one of the best community builders I have met in recent years. And I'm very excited about Bela's session, Understanding the Differences Between Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging. And Bela, I'll go ahead and let you talk a little bit about yourself as well.
Okay, awesome. Hello, everyone. I am Bela Gaytan. My pronouns are she, her. Visual description, I'm wearing a yellow floral short sleeve dress. I have tattooed sleeves. I'm a light-skinned Latina with short, curly, let's call it metallic blue hair because it's starting to fade. And I have red lipstick, some gold hoops, gold necklace. You can see my plants, my glorious sign from my boss, Heidi Kirby. Thank you. And I just have like a soothing green wall color behind me. A few things that I want to say. If you've never been to one of my talks, I sometimes may bounce all over the place. I am neurodivergent, but I try to stay on topic. I have 2 monitors. I'm putting chat and video over here, and I'm going to have the presentation here. So if you see me turning away, I am still engaged. And another thing that I want to talk about with the sessions that I do, I really prefer to do them very interactive. So I don't have a whole lot of slides here because we're going to work together as we go on this journey of understanding the differences between diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And if anyone's wondering why accessibility is not mentioned in there, it is, I want to preface it and say that accessibility should be an important factor in each of those steps of creating a welcoming culture. So let me get my screen shared here. I think I say this with every time I'm ever on, I'm doing a session. I swear I feel like a noob every time. I'm searching for the button. All right. Can everyone see what's on the screen? Oh, awesome. Thank you, Kara or Kara. And there's no lag delay with the chat this morning, which is really cool. So I'll be able to feel like I'm really here in real time. All right. So I'm going to get on with it. All right. So we have understanding the differences between diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Again, as I said, I'm Bela Gaytan, and this is part of TLDC's Ideal 22. Of course, I click and it's not like going anywhere. Okay, there we go. All right. So a little bit more about me. I'm Bela Gaytan, and I like to disrupt spaces to bring about change. I'm never shy to be the loudmouth in the room, calling out inequity and, other horrible issues. I leverage my lived experience as someone with multiple, intersectional identities. I'm queer. I'm neurodivergent. I am colorblind. I'm also physically disabled with multiple rare and progressive genetic disorders. I'm looking at my thing here to make sure I said everything. I'm Latina. And I always try to do my best to bring diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility, and belonging into any conversation possible, because I think it's not something that we need to treat like as a checkbox on a form or the yearly compliance training. DEIAB, which is what I might refer to it from now on to save my voice, needs to be woven into every thread, every fabric, everything that we do. And above all, one of the things I'm really passionate about is that everyone deserves equal access to both physical and psychologically safe spaces in the world. All right, today's topics. So if you read the description of my session, I talked about how diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging can be thought of a neighborhood, and each one is kind of like its own little home. They operate separately, but they contribute to the whole picture, so to speak. So I wanted to kind of, visually display that so that we can get a little bit, I think having visuals to go with it's not an analogy. I can't remember the word right now. But I think that that's really helpful. Another thing, I do move around a lot. So I apologize if it startles anyone, if I get close to the camera, but I have to change positions a lot. All right, today's topics. So let's take a journey through a beautiful neighborhood together. Let's also pretend, for the sake of this session, that all of these, environments and ecosystems are in one area geographically. So today we're going to be learning about diversity, equity, inclusion, and then belonging. And along the way, I want us to collectively work together to find solutions to DEIB issues. So we're going to start off with diversity. And I went the wrong way, of course. It's not a Bella session if I don't do something that wasn't intended, right? Okay. So let's talk about diversity. So what is diversity? It's all of the different human attributes, characteristics, and the things that differentiate us from each other and make us unique. So an easy way to think about them would be to think of them as facts. Think of them as demographics. So it's the biodiversity of us all. I know biodiversity is often used to talk about biology and everything other than us as humans, but it's the same thing in humans. Like everyone is so unique. We hear the analogy about, no two snowflakes are the same. Well, it's the same with people. So we have to keep that in mind when we're talking about diversity. Okay, so I'm going to go to chat now, and I want to know, what are some of the things that you think of when you think of diversity? Who are the people and the groups of people that are, how can I word this? That need to be included when you're doing any kind of efforts to improve diversity? I hope that makes sense. That didn't come out right. I love that, Kearney. I hope I'm saying your name right. Everyone. BIPOC, yeah. For anyone that's not familiar with BIPOC, it is Black, Indigenous, and people of color, African Americans, different upbringings, gender identity, um, all different kinds of learners. Yeah, yeah. Age diversity. I like how you said that, Dawn. I always struggle to decide how I want to refer to older folks. That's typically what I use. Sometimes I say aged. But I like that age diversity. Yes, Christy, body type, hair, religion. Oh my goodness, geography, non-Christian. Love that, Alice. Um, Neurodiversity. Yeah, Gwen. Most importantly, the ones who have the most stake in that particular conversation. Yes. Political views. That's a good one. I love it. Tara, variety of religions and beliefs. Yeah, those are all so amazing. Also, whenever this recording is out, I'm going to go back through and I'm going to update this presentation and add in everything that you all are putting into chat. Because that's community. That's what we do. So here are some of the people that I thought of when I was thinking of who is in the neighborhood. So this here, this first upper left square, that is that signifies, diversity. That house, it's in a beautiful, I guess that's a meadow, or I don't know, it's a forest. There's hills, there's greens. It's lovely. So when we talk about having like a diverse neighborhood, well, who do we have in that neighborhood? So I think most of these have already been said, but people of color, we have disabled folks, we have people of all ages, we have people of all skin colors. That's something I want folks to keep in mind, because colorism is very real. We talk about diversity in terms of like racial background or ethnicity, but a lot of times we do not talk about colorism, and that is the tendency for folks to favor people that are lighter skinned, and that's even within different BIPOC communities. So we should have light skinned, dark skinned, and everything in between, different sexual orientations and identities. We should have neurodiversity. So neurodiversity and neurodivergence and neurotypical are often confused. Neurodivergent is someone that has any type of condition that affects the way that their brain works and processes things. So, for example, ADHD, autism, borderline personality disorder, and other mental health disorders. Someone that has damage to their brain that causes, differences in the way that they process information. That is neurodivergence. Neurotypical is someone who is not neurodivergent. We don't want to say that that is someone normal, because what is normality except what society, dictates, right? So people that are not neurodivergent, we refer to them as neurotypical. Neurodiversity, if you think of diversity as, kind of encompassing everyone, neurodiversity is neurodivergent and neurotypical together. Okay. So also varying body sizes and people from unique backgrounds. All right, so let's go to the next one. Let's talk about equity. So this is I think it's pink and coral colored house. Again, keep in mind I'm colorblind. And it's against a very serene background that reminds me of the Isle of Skye in Scotland. So equity. Equity is about treating folks fairly. Now, keep in mind, equity does not equal equality. That's a lot of let's try that again. Equity is not the same as equality. So equality is treating everyone exactly the same. Equity is treating everyone fairly. And I'll go into that a little bit more in just a moment. So equity refers to the fundamentals and policies that are in place in any environment that ensure that everyone has access to the same opportunities. So this can be, when I talk about a place or environment, we're talking about a workplace. We're talking about home, school, out in the community, anywhere that you are. There's always some fundamentals or policies, that dictate how everyone is treated. And equity requires preliminary work and research so that you can identify the different imbalances or loopholes or unequal starting points. One of the images that I've seen before that I think really explains equity, and I think some of you might be familiar with that, is there's an image of people and there's a fence in front of them. And I believe it's like a baseball game or something going on in the background. And it shows people of different heights. And, some of them cannot see over the fence. And it says that's treating everyone equal by everyone just being able to stand in front of, Kelly. Okay, good. What I'm talking about. Kelly says, yes, love that image. Heidi, I assume that's the image. So it's like everyone being treated equal is everyone standing on the ground in front of the fence, but you have some people that are shorter than the fence, right? So equity is giving everyone an equal opportunity to be able to view like the baseball game, let's just say. So someone who is short may get like a box to stand on so that they're able to see over the fence. You're not treating everyone equally. Everyone doesn't need a box to see over the fence, right? It's just the people that are in a position where they don't have the same access, as someone who is taller. Oh, wow. I love all these things that are coming in the chat. I cannot wait until afterwards that I can just throw myself into it. All right. So I want to be mindful of time. So let's talk about equity, and let's talk about, I'm finding it hard to put this into words. Maybe someone can help me, but let's talk about the people and groups that are often experiencing inequities. And again, I hope that's making sense. That concept is really hard for me to put into words. So let's talk about the people that are often affected with inequities. So either the chat is lagging or everyone's still waking up this morning. No, here we go. It's lagging. Neurodivergent folks. Yes. Immigrants. Yes. Marginalized groups. Mm-hmm. Disabled. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Preaching to the choir here. Non-able-bodied. Yes. People of color. Yeah. Are you noticing a theme here? That a lot of the people that we're talking about with inequities, Mercedes, victims of abuse. I love that. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. But are you noticing a lot of overlap here? A lot of the people that we talked about in diversity are also the folks that we are talking about when we're thinking of inequities. So yeah, working parents in the workplace. Yeah. Non-English first language speakers or people that do not speak the native language of their environment. I love that. Trans people. Yes. Okay. Let's go forward. So here when we're talking about the neighborhood, who is unable to be in the neighborhood? These are the folks that are trying to get into the neighborhood, but they may be facing some barriers. So we can talk about people from a lower socioeconomic status. You want to get really, just down to earth, like poor folks. I've been there. I've lived at poverty level. There was a lot of things that I wasn't able to access during that time. Inaccessibility for people who are disabled. That is a big one for equity, exactly as that image that I was talking about earlier with the people that, were in front of the fence. People with language differences. So it could be someone who doesn't speak the native language of their environment. And then people, when you think of level of education or skills, and if we want to talk about this in a learning context, think about people that, and I think my cat's going to make an appearance here. Think about people that may not have the same education level as the majority of people in a classroom. And you're speaking and you're sounding very academic, it might be difficult for those people to follow along. Or you have someone who has wonderful, tremendous amount of skills in a topic, but they just don't have what I call the knowledge on paper. And that's me a lot of times. A lot of times I can't really explain something, but I can do it. So those are some of the things that, we think of when we think of inequity. Again, Lilu, I guess, is going to assist us during this presentation. All right, so let's move on to inclusion. So if you remember, we said diversity is a fact, okay? And let me go back because I forget how I worded it. I hope I'm not making anybody dizzy here. So diversity is a fact. Nope. I thought I had something really cool to go along with that, and I did not. So bear with me. All right. So inclusion. So inclusion is a behavior. It's the behaviors and the actions that proactively, recognize, respect, and welcome diversity. Inclusion means valuing everyone's opinion, everyone's unique ideas and perspectives. I think for inclusion, a lot of times people talk about, being at the table, but being heard, being valued, being respected. And it's also about, just feeling a connection with others and just feeling that you're involved, in the different situations that you're in. So with inclusion, let's think about who are the people that are often excluded. I'm going to try to put my cat away. I love, Alan, you say, I can do it, but I can't explain it. Yeah, that's something that always gets me, especially in interviews. Yeah. So Christy says, women, yes. Position change. What other folks do we think about that are often excluded in learning, in society, in politics, in workplace organizations? People of color, yeah, marginalized populations, trans folks, poor folks. So women identifying or feminine presenting. My understanding, I am not trans, I am queer though. My understanding is that currently, or not, I shouldn't say currently. It's better just to say women because that includes people that identify as women or are, present as feminine. If anyone wants to come in there, oh, Kearney. Again, I hope I'm saying your name right. What does queer mean? Yeah, I definitely want to address that. If I'm saying anything that anyone doesn't know what a word means or like a term, please do pop it in the chat and I will address that. I try to make sure that everyone has an equitable experience here. So queer is the Q in the acronym LGBTQIA+. And queer is It's unique to each person. It essentially means that you do not identify as heterosexual or straight. Um, and beyond that, it can kind of mean whatever you want it to mean. It can be a catch-all for anyone who is part of the LGBTQIA plus group and community. For me, I use queer because I find that it's easier to describe myself than having to explain all the different factors of like my gender identity as well as like my sexual orientation. I hope I've done a decent job explaining that. Heidi Kirby, fat people. Yeah, fat person here. Low literacy, people with disabilities, English language learners. Yes, Gwen, for sure. Kearney, if I've not explained that thoroughly enough, feel free to reach out to me on my website or on LinkedIn, and I'd be happy to send some resources over that are probably much more articulate than one I can explain. Mercedes, anyone that doesn't fit the respective culture. Yes, yes, yes. All right, let's advance to inclusion. So with inclusion, when we're talking about the neighborhood, we're talking about who isn't valued in the neighborhood. So they're in the neighborhood. They can be diverse as well, right? But they're not valued. They're not respected. So people that we talk about that are often excluded from being respected and valued are older and aged people, as well as younger folks. Let's not forget, I don't know the different terms like millennial, Gen Xers. I don't know what any of them are. I don't know what I am or even my kids are. But, let's think about the 20-something-year-olds now. A lot of times, let's be honest, like there's a lot of memes about them. They're not taken seriously because what do they know? They're only like 20-something. Like, don't do that. Don't do that. My daughter is 26 and so much more mature than I was at that age and very independent and strong and amazing, as is my son. But yeah, let's remember that it's not just ageism against like older people. It's also against younger people as well. Those with disabilities. Now you see why I told you accessibility is built into each of these, and that's why I didn't give the separate category. Women are often excluded. People of faiths different from the dominating belief system. So when I say dominating belief system, I'm referring to whatever area you're in, whatever is considered the norm by the society in that area. Norm was just put in air quotes for anybody that's not able to see that because, there is no normal religion. There is no rule that says that one religion is better than the other. So for example, if you think of here in the United States, Christianity tends to be the dominating belief system. So other folks that could be excluded here would be Muslims, Buddhists, Jewish folks, people of the Baha'i faith, pagans, Wiccans, atheists, all of those different systems. And also people that are in non-traditional relationships. I think when we hear that, we may initially think of folks that are in an LGBTQ plus relationship, but let's also not forget people that live together without being married. A lot of times that's still frowned upon, which is ridiculous. But a lot of times they may not be respected as much as someone who is married, i.e., they have their names on a piece of paper, right? Let's also think of people that are polyamorous. If you're unfamiliar with polyamorous, and I hope I'm explaining this correctly because I'm not polyamorous, but it's being in a relationship with more than just your significant other. But yeah, let's think about those different types of relationships and how often they're excluded from being able to be heard and respected and valued, right? So now we're down to belonging. Oops. I was trying to make sure my chat was down at the bottom. It was like scrolled up. So belonging is the result of your DEIA efforts and your goals, right? Belonging is creating a safe space where people feel seen, valued, and supported by their uniqueness. It's where people can show up authentically and that they have physical and psychological safety and they feel part of something bigger, what I often refer to as community. It doesn't necessarily mean community in a town or a village or a geographical area, but community is like, just connecting with people and feeling a part of something larger than just yourself. It's like the saying goes, it takes a village, meaning that it's never just one person. It takes a group of people, a community, right? Community is also like your chosen family, people that you choose to be your family, people that love you as though they are your family. And this is especially important for people that may be, I'm not sure if this is the right word, like ostracized or, disowned by their family. Yeah. Let me go here. So essentially, if you think about it, if someone feels that they belong, that means they don't have to leave any part of them at the door. So what that phrase or saying means is like, imagine when you go to work and you have piercings like myself. When I get to the door, before I go into the office, I'm sitting in my car, I have to take my piercing out. That's what we mean when we talk about like leaving anything at the door. It just means that you have to hide or remove or mask a certain part of your identity because you feel that you won't belong at work with it. And so essentially belonging is the emotional state of your diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility goals. And I'm over here fighting with my cat, trying to get her to stay out of here. I didn't pay her for this session, so yeah. Okay, so belonging is a little bit different to discuss when you talk about what people who feel that they don't belong, because anybody can feel that they don't belong, right? Lilu, my cat right now, doesn't feel that she's welcome at this presentation in front of my face and, waving her tail around and slapping my eyeballs with it, right? So, but let's think, who are some people that are often, feeling that they don't belong in spaces? And I'm looking through chat. I'm seeing Heidi here. Heidi, you can speak for me almost always. I'm just trying to scroll up to see some of the previous responses. And this was for inclusion, I believe. People negative experiences in traditional education. Yeah, Bridget, for sure. Introverts. Gwen, lack of inclusion also means that decisions are made for and about the people being excluded. That is a wonderful example. Let's see here. Yes, Christy, people who work trade and non-white collar jobs. Trying to find an LMS that would work for an audience working in waste management was tricky because the systems just aren't set up for that environment. Yeah, for sure. Let's see. Oh, so I'm trying to, maybe someone can better help me understand. Now I see what Heidi was referring to, I believe, where it says, it sounds like I am ridiculing conservative religious beliefs by saying that's ridiculous. I'm saying it's ridiculous for people to not be good humans and be kind to one another and respect each other. I have a lot of people in my family that are conservative religious, love them to death. So yeah, that's definitely not what I'm meaning to say. So Heidi had that right there. And as Bridget said also, I think we can respect conservative religious beliefs while also recognizing that other beliefs are valid. Yep. I have studied religions all my life. I grew up without religion, so I've dabbled in them all. I have tremendous respect for them all. And I just expect that people respect my beliefs as well. So yeah, definitely not ridiculing. Women of color. Yeah. Folks without a support network. Oh, Hannah, that's a good one. again, that ties in with community, like why I think it's so important. All right, so let's go to the next slide here. So these are some of the people that I thought of when I thought of, who feels that they don't belong in the neighborhood. All right. They're there. They had, equitable access, to get into the neighborhood. They're diverse, but they still don't feel that they belong. Right. So as I said earlier, like anyone can feel that they don't belong, but some of the common groups are neurodivergent folks, people with disabilities. You notice that's been in every category, right? Transgender individuals, BIPOC, and again, that's Black, Indigenous, and people of color, and also immigrants and refugees. I think that's an important one to think of because that is when we're thinking about diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility, and belonging, we don't want to think of only states that are permanent, such as I'm disabled, that's not going to change. I'm Latina, that's not going to change. We also want to think of the different, temporary and situational aspects of our identity. So someone who's an immigrant, yes, they will always be an immigrant, but at some point, they may become a citizen, they become acclimated to their environment, they're no longer a newcomer, if that makes sense. And the same for refugees. They're a refugee in the moment. And yes, they can refer to that term for the rest of their life, but their situation will change once they have immigrated to another country and started a new life. And sorry, I'm just going down in the chat to make sure I've got everything. Kearney, that's a great question. No, we're not referring to USA only. So yeah, we're talking about Indigenous folks of anywhere. So here it would be, Native Americans, but also one of the things to keep in mind is that people that are of, Mexican, Central American, South American, we are also considered Indigenous. And let's see, I'm going back to the question. Yeah, so it wouldn't refer to Indigenous people of Ireland who live in Ireland and are white. It's referring to systems of oppression and typically places that have been colonized by white folks when you're talking about Indigenous people. Not always white folks, but I'll give another example. So like in Morocco and the Maghreb region of Northern Africa, the Indigenous folks were Tamazight. They were not Arabs. So those are the Indigenous folks to that area. Arabs actually migrated there, and then, all of the mixing and commingling and everything happened. So I hope that that explains it. Kearney, what about Native Chinese in China? If it's a different ethnic group, then that one's a little tougher to explain because I don't know the different ethnic groups that are in China, but that would be something great that you could be able to research and probably find some really cool information on. All right, so let's see. I got down to this. Okay, mindful of time. Moving forward. All right, so now let's talk about what actions can we take to live and breathe diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. I don't want us to focus on each one, but you can just pop some things into the chat. Like, what are things that we can do to ensure that we are inviting diverse people into the neighborhood, the community, that people have an equitable access to the community, people that are included and valued, and again, the A, accessibility, it kind of belongs, in all of there. But what are some of the things that we can do to be able to live and breathe diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging and accessibility? Yes, Gwen, look around the room and ask who's not here, who needs to be here. Shital, reasonable price of higher education. Yeah, for sure. Yes, Christy, I like that. Following people on social media, not necessarily to insert yourself in conversations, but to listen. That's a really good one. And that comes, definitely comes into play when we're talking about people of color. And you'll see a lot of people that want to insert their opinion or their lived experience, but they're not a person of color. It's very important that when we do insert ourselves into these, conversations, that we're coming from a place of, this is my lived experience, and not like, well, my friend said this, or, well, I have a friend who's Mexican and they do this, because proximity to diversity does not equal, being part of a diverse group. Let's see. So yeah, Kearney, I'm looking for your comment. I just saw it a minute ago. It sounds to me like BIPOC loses its relevance outside the multicultural West. I don't know how to respond to that one, because I don't like to talk about like multicultural West or East. The East is multicultural as well. It's kind of when we get into the global North and the global South classifications, they're not geographically North and South. It's based on inequality and colonialism and oppression. Lashunda, I hope I'm saying your name right. Yeah, the concept of whiteness is only 600 years old. Okay, so I'm going to move forward because I'm looking at time. I want to make sure we have time for questions here. I want to provide a few different scenarios, just to give a little bit more of an example of when we have part of the equation, but not all. So let's say we have equity and inclusion, but we don't have diversity. So imagine a boardroom full of white men. Each of them has equal access to being in the boardroom and having their needs met, right? They're all valued and able to share their ideas and perspectives. But without diversity, any policies or ideas or perspectives or plans of actions they're creating are naturally going to be centered around being a white man. And the world is not all white men. Businesses are not all white men, or they shouldn't be, so not having diversity there means that you're missing out on a lot of innovative ideas and perspectives at the table. So let's talk about having inclusion and diversity, but not having equity. So think about a passionate LGBTQ plus organization. They're excited to advocate for policy changes. So, the members are diverse. You have, queer folks, you have, allies, and all sorts of people from across the community coming together, right? So let's say you look at the leadership level, though, and it's apparent that they don't represent the diversity of the organization's members. What you end up with is a power struggle from the dominant social ideas in that situation. And again, I'm kind of going through these quickly because I want to make sure I have time for questions and such. All right. So finally, equity, diversity, but no inclusion. I'm going to use myself and my lived experience as an example here. So I'm invited to an event that is focused on improving diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. I am there to speak up on issues and offer suggestions. However, as a disabled person, it's expected that I am speaking on behalf of all disabled people, okay? As I share my innovative ideas, I'm met with, I hear you, Bella, but, or, well, so-and-so is disabled, but they, and it's a form of resistance. My ideas will not be celebrated or implemented until someone of the dominant group claims them as their own. We also see this oftentimes in workplaces and all environments, actually, where a woman may present an idea and it's ignored, or it's met with the same kind of resistance. But a man can produce the same idea, not produce, but a man can proclaim the same idea, and all of a sudden it's celebrated just because it's from a male perspective. I see a lot of stuff going on in the chat. I cannot answer all of that, but I truly appreciate everyone that's hopping in to help and provide, perspective and wisdom and lived experience. One thing I want all of you to keep in mind is even with me delivering this presentation, I don't represent everyone. I represent myself and my lived experiences, and everything's going to be, unique to each person. And everything that I'm presenting here, like these scenarios, it's not for me to target any one group. But we have to be real in recognizing that there are power struggles in the world. There are dominating, groups within each community, within each ecosystem, right? And one of the things I like to tell people is that when we get uncomfortable, we need to sit in that discomfort and we need to think, why am I uncomfortable about this? Okay. Do some, self reflection, introspection, whatever you want to call it, meditate, whatever. But, try to think, why am I feeling uncomfortable in this situation? Why am I challenging others' opinions? Or why am I feeling that I need to, reject someone else's ideas or opinions or perspectives or such? So, whew, okay. I need coffee. It's 10 minutes till 12. I want to thank everyone for attending today. Definitely would love to stay in touch. You can go to my website at my name, belagaytan.com. My handles on almost all social media are at in my name, Bela Gaytan. I did not put my name here in camel case, which would be capitalizing each letter for accessibility. That is a mistake on my part. But yeah, I'd love to see if anyone has any questions or comments or yeah.
Hey, Bela, I did
Yes.
see someone asked whether or not they can use your slides or at least the definitions to bring to their own work groups.
Yeah, reach out to me on LinkedIn or my website and let's talk about that. Let's
Excellent.
see. Am I still sharing my screen? Okay, yeah, stop sharing. Okay.
There we go. All right. Bela, thank you so much for doing this one.
Yeah,
It's
for
a great way
sure.
to start the event so that people can get like or at least start thinking about these ideas, the idea of
Mhm.
diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging. I haven't even like really approached that one. So it was really illuminating for me. And yeah, there is a lot of really interesting conversation in the chat. And I appreciate everybody who's participating in all of that. I do want to mention 10 a.m. Pacific time. I guess that would be 1 p.m. Eastern. Julie Kratz is our next speaker. Let's see. I actually have her book right here. She is fantastic. Allyship in action. Really, I highly suggest coming back for that one. And just to remind everyone, the format of this week's event is I do like to put significant breaks in between each session so that we can you have time to reflect and to think about what you just learned, in this, 52 minutes that we've been sharing with Bela. So please feel free to, just take some time to think about it, think about the conversations that you're having in chat. And also, if anyone is at all interested in hosting a table in the lounge area of AirMeet, let me know. I'd be happy to assign you a chair or a table, and you can go in there and have conversations. I'm probably going to be in there for just doing a sort of a, was it Ask Me Anything, an AMA type of thing. If you have questions about TLDC, I'd love to meet and network and talk to folks. So with that, I'm going to
I'll pop
wrap
in
this one up.
also. I was just going to add really quick, like I'll pop into the tables as I'm able to. I'm not able to right now, but as I'm able to, and I have some free time, I'm more than happy to pop into the
Absolutely. Anybody, just whenever you're available, those tables are there. So feel free to pop in. I know I actually have a couple meetings. It's the Monday after Thanksgiving, like you were saying, Bela. Everyone's still sort of adjusting to this world that we have to go back to.
for
And
sure.
so with that, I'm going to close it out. Thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you in the next session.
Take care, everyone. Be a cool
Bye.
human.